Okay, guys, in today's lesson we're going to learn happy birthday, but we're going to learn this using our tablature, or as we've already talked about, tab for short. So now's a really good time to get out the handout or the printout that I send to you or your parents of happy birthday as we go through this. So let's start off and we'll see, if we're looking at our tab or our tablature, we'll see that our first two notes are 2 zeros on the third line of the tablature. So that means that we're going to be using our third string. And the 0 means that we just play the third string on its own. We don't need to hold down any notes. So we're going to play these 2 zeros, or these the third string twice. I'm going to play these two notes quite closely together. So it's going to sound like this. Okay, now if we're to move on then to the next bar, you'll see that there's a 2 and a 0 again on the third line of the tablature. So we're still on our third string. The 2 means that we're going to press down on the second fret. So we'll use our second finger. And then we play a 0 or an open third string. And then you'll see there that there's a number 1. This number 1 is on the second line of our tablature. So we're on our second string. And the number 1 tells us that we have to press down our finger on the first fret. So we'll just use our first finger to do that. So let's put together what we've learned so far. Okay, so let's move on to the next bar. Okay, so the next bar shows us we have a 0 on the second line of our tablature. So we play this 0 on our second string. And then we've got 2 zeros that are quite close together, so we're going to play those quite quickly together. So we've got 2 zeros on our third line, so we're going to play our third string, and we don't need to hold down any notes because they're zeros. So these two notes sound like this. So you might want to just stop and practice that. Okay, so what we're going to do now is just put together what we've learned so far. Okay, so let's move on to the next bar. So you'll see now that we have a number 2 on the third line. So we're going to be now on our third string. Number 2 means that we're going to play the second fret on our third string. So we just play that. And then the next note is a 0. And that's still on our third string. So we just play that third string open. And then you'll see that we now have a number 3 on the second line of our tablature. So this number 3 means that we use our second string, and the number 3 means that we're using our third fret. Okay, so what we know is the D note. So third fret, second string. Okay, so let's now put together everything that we've learned so far. Okay, so we're now going to play just the last bar on the first line. So we see there we start off with a number 1 on the second line of our tablature. So we're using our second string. The number 1 means that we're using the first fret, so we use our first finger. And then you'll see that we've got 2 zeros, okay, on our third line. So we're going to use our third string and just play the third string open. And because there's 2 zeros, we play it twice. Okay, so let's try and see if we can play all of line 1. So I'm going to play all of line 1, and then you might want to pause the video and see if you can have a go. Don't worry about playing it quickly, don't worry about the timing, it's just about trying to find the correct notes, okay? Okay, so we're now going to move on to the second line. So we're moving to the first bar on the second line. First bar on the second line. So you see this starts off with a number 3 on the first line of our tablature. That means we're using our first string, and the number 3 means we have to put our finger down on the 3rd fret. So I'm just going to use my 3rd finger. Okay, so I'm going to play that note, and then we play then, as you see there's a 0 next, so we play our first string just on its own, open, and then there's a number 1 on the second line. So we're up to now our second string, and the number 1 means we have to put our finger down on the 1st fret. So just use your first finger on the 1st fret of the 2nd string. So I'm just going to play those first 3 notes, the first bar on line number 2. So you might want to just pause the video and practice that. Okay, so we're going to move now on to the second bar of line number 2. And you'll see we start off with a 0 on the second line. So that means we play our 2nd string open. We then play, you'll see there's a number 2 on the 3rd line. So that means we're using our 3rd string, but we need to press down on the 2nd fret. The number 2 means we're using our 2nd fret, number 2 fret. Okay. And then we've got just 2 more notes in this bar, and it says 1 1 on the first line. So we're back down to our 1st string, and we're putting our 1st finger in the 1st fret. The number 1s mean that we're using our 1st fret. Okay, and then let's move on to the 3rd bar. So the 3rd bar has a 0 on line number 1. So we just play a string number 1 open, and then it says a number 1 on the 2nd line of our tablature. So we 2nd line means we're using our 2nd string. The number 1 is telling us to use our 1st fret on that 2nd string. So just use your 1st finger. And then we have a number 3 on the same string. So we're just using our 3rd finger on the 3rd fret. And then we just go back to, for the very last note, we go back to number 1 or the 1st fret on our 2nd string. So I'm just going to play line number 2 for you nice and slowly, and you might want to have a go at practicing it. So have a little go at playing line number 2, and then when you feel confident enough, try and put the whole song together. So I'm going to play this, all of the song, so you know what it sounds like, and just keep practicing this. And don't worry if you can't play it very quickly or as quickly as me. You'll probably find that you'll probably want to play it quite slowly until you get used to reading your tablature and used to knowing where your fingers need to be. So don't worry about that. Okay, so here we go. I'll just play it for you. Okay, so have a go at practicing Happy Birthday, and this time using your tablature rather than reading your notes. Okay, and I'm sure I'll see you in the next Zoom lesson.